Friday, July 24th, 11 in the morning. The sirens start to sound in the villages of the Danube Delta, in eastern Romania. On the radar, a red dot has just crossed the border and is heading deep into the territory of a NATO country. There are 4 fighter jets in the air. 2 Italian fighters arrive first, lock onto the target, fire, and miss. Then, a Romanian F-16 takes over the chase. At 11:02 a.m., the missile launches from the wing and the Russian drone turns into a ball of fire over a wheat field. For 4.5 years, the Western Alliance had been avoiding taking that shot. It was the first time in history that Romania opened fire on a Russian target within its own airspace. Forensic analysis later confirmed it. It was a Shahed, the same type of drone that Russia uses against Ukraine every night. And look, that was just the first day. On Saturday, the same thing. Another drone comes in through the delta, another fighter takes off, another shoot-down. On Sunday morning, 10:08, the radar picks up another one coming in along the coast. 2 fighters take off from Fatest base, already under NATO command. 10:13. 5 minutes later, the drone sinks into the Black Sea, 12 kilometers from the coast. 3 days, 3 shots, 3 drones down. In the villages of the region, the cell phones keep ringing with shelter alerts, and in the morning there's a team sweeping the field for debris. And from Russia in these 3 days, do you know what came? Absolutely nothing, not a single word. A government that responds to every little thing, staying quiet for 3 days, that alone is already saying something. The question that almost no one is asking is, why now? Why would a country that tolerated airspace violations for 4 years suddenly decide to pull the trigger 3 days in a row? To understand why Romania fired, you need to feel what it had to swallow before. September of 2025. A drone enters Romania and stays for 50 minutes, wandering inside the Alliance's airspace. 50 minutes. The fighter jets were right on it. Pilots with their fingers on the trigger and no one shoots. The drone turns around and leaves. Just like that, and that same week the test was already much bigger. Almost 20 drones invaded Poland in a single night. Polish fighter jets, Dutch fighter jets, German anti-aircraft batteries. It was the largest air defense mobilization of the entire war. They shot down several. All right, but one of the missiles went off course, and it ended up on the roof of a house in Poland. And there, the cost became crystal clear. You're responding to a cheap drone with a missile worth hundreds of thousands of dollars flying over a populated area. It's expensive and it's risky. Russia looked at all this hesitation and understood the message perfectly. Meanwhile, at the border, the war was no longer just next door. It practically lived there. There is a Romanian village called Plauru, which is just a few hundred meters from the Ukrainian port of Ismail on the other side of the river. And Ismail is one of the preferred targets of Russian drones. Nights there even have a routine. It gets dark, anti-aircraft fire rises from the Ukrainian side, a fuel depot explodes on the other side, and windows shake on this side. And it doesn't even have to be at night. There are records of residents filming from their own backyard, in broad daylight. A drone flies low, close to the riverbank. The person runs to take cover under the porch. And seconds later, smoke is already rising on the Ukrainian bank. That's the distance we're talking about. There was a case in the Tulcea region where the Ukrainian defense blew up a drone practically right on the borderline. The Romanian authorities themselves released the images. The drone turns into a ball of fire in the air. plummeting and emitting black smoke. It falls near a river, and the team that goes to collect the wreckage on this side is the Romanian team. It got to the point where the government built a concrete bunker in the middle of the village of Ploris, a bunker inside NATO territory. Just so you have an idea, in November there was almost a tragedy. A Russian drone hit a ship that was docked there in Ismail on the Ukrainian side, carrying 4,000 tons of liquefied gas. 4,000 tons of gas, 500 meters from the Romanian village, across the river. If that goes off, there's no border that can contain the explosion. They evacuated the village in a hurry, and Romania, well, did nothing in response. Then, in May of this year, the consequences hit where they never should have. A drone crashed on top of a residential building in the city of Galati, in eastern Romania, and injured a mother and a child inside their home. The footage from that night shows the flash at the top of the building, the smoke over the city, the firefighters in the street. It was the first time in the entire war that an attack like this hit a populated area of an alliance country. And if you add everything up since the beginning of the war, there have been 33 violations of Romanian airspace and about 50 cases of drones or drone parts found on Romanian soil. 50. And do you know how each of those incidents ended? Always the same: formal protest. A note saying there was no intention, case closed, and the game went on. Until the Romanian parliament got tired of it and passed a law giving the Air Force explicit authority to destroy any unmanned aircraft that invaded the country. That authority, in fact, already existed on paper. All that was missing was for someone to make the political decision to order them to shoot. And that decision was made 3 times. In 3 days, in the last week of July. On Sunday, the 26th, which is the same day as the 3rd shoot-down. Putin sat at a table full of Russian Navy officers and said the following: "That Western Ukraine is a gift that Stalin gave to Ukraine after the war. And that, sooner or later, Ukraine will lose those lands. That they will go back to Poland, to Hungary, and to Romania." And he added, the only guarantor of Ukraine's territorial integrity, according to him, was Russia.
There was only one guarantor of Ukraine's territorial integrity, and it's Russia.
Think about the moment when that happened. On the exact day when a Romanian fighter jet shot down the 3rd drone, the president of Russia was saying in public that the borders of that region are not permanent. Sounds almost like an offer, right? But the underlying message is different. If Ukraine's border can be redrawn by force, so can Romania's. In his view, the country deciding that region's borders is Russia. Said on the day of the 3rd shoot-down, this sounds like a warning. Be careful with what you're doing. And the Romanian government didn't need a translator to understand. 2 days later, Russia finally spoke out about the shoot-downs. And the tone they chose says it all. The spokesperson for the Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, said that the shoot-downs were staged. It was pure theater. She also took the opportunity to accuse Romania of irresponsible policy for supporting Ukraine. Pay close attention to what she said. She didn't admit responsibility, nor did she say it was an accident. It was basically mockery. Romania then responded in kind, summoned the Russian ambassador, expelled a diplomat from the Russian embassy, and even called back its own ambassador who was in Moscow. On paper, this is diplomatic protocol. In practice, it's 2 governments openly fighting without hiding it. Except that one of them is part of NATO. And if you think Russia backed down, after all that, look at what happened on August 2nd, a week after the 3rd shoot-down. Another drone enters Romanian airspace. again through the Danube Delta. Fighter jets in the air, alarms sounding in the villages around Tulsia. This time, the drone crossed back into Ukraine before the shot was fired. And it was the Ukrainians themselves who shot it down. In other words, the test didn't stop, it just got more expensive. And that's exactly what these 3 days in July changed. Think it through with me. For 4 years, the script was always the same. A Russian drone would enter, a fighter jet would take off, everyone would hold their breath. They would collect the wreckage, and they would write a little note of protest. 4 years like that. Now the script is different. It came in, it fell. What used to be an exception has become routine. And when shooting them down becomes routine, Russia starts to realize that every drone sent to this side of the Danube will be destroyed. That's what makes the other side think twice before sending the next one. Of course, there's still a flaw in this plan, and the alliance itself knows it. Taking down a drone worth tens of thousands of dollars with a missile that costs much more doesn't add up in the long run. That's why Romania has already bought the Merops, a system that takes down these drones using small interceptor drones which cost a fraction of the price. In other words, the expensive missile solves the problem for now. And the cheap system is what will allow us to keep shooting down drones every day, without breaking the budget.
What?
But there's still a question hanging in the air, and that's one no radar can answer. Did Russia get the message, or will they just test somewhere else? Because the pattern of the last few months shows exactly that. When pressure meets resistance at one point, it moves somewhere else. It goes to the northern countries, in the Baltic Sea region, it goes to the internet and power cables on the seabed. It goes to the next weak spot that appears. And if that drone from August 2nd was good for anything, it was to warn that the Romanian border is still a target. Romania showed where the line is, and it showed it with 3 missiles. Now everyone wants to see if Russia will respect it, or if it will get closer. This tug of war on the eastern border of Europe is just beginning. And every new move will be analyzed here on the channel. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And tell me in the comments, in your opinion, do the 3 shots from Romania hold back Russia? Or do they just shift the testing to another point on the border? Share your opinion below. I want to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching. See you next time.